I'd like to welcome everybody to today's webinar. My name is Matt Henderson, and I'll be your host and performing the webinar today. So I appreciate everyone being here. Just a few housekeeping items. If you do have questions, I would encourage you to enter those in the Q&A pod, and we'll get to as many as possible. And we did receive several via email, and I believe we're going to cover most of those in your throughout this webinar. We did receive, I also would like to make sure that everybody has the ability to download the report that we'll be referencing today. So I just dropped the link in the chat pod. So you can download that now or click on that later, and then you can download the supply chain report as it relates to natural gas in the upstream sector. So first, I just want to talk a little bit about the program today, Energy and Manufacturing in Appalachia. This is a project that's funded by the Appalachian Region Commission, a federally funded project, and it covers 5 states or parts of 5 states across Appalachia, including all of West Virginia, most of Pennsylvania, Northeast Ohio, southern tier of New York, and several counties into Maryland. So as part of that project, we're working on releasing these energy supply chain overviews, which I'll touch on here in a second. And you can see our upcoming schedule where we have 2 more as it relates to AI data centers. We're going to talk about RNG from biodigesters, geothermal, and then you can also see we have several more in the works. And when we're done, we're probably about 15 or 16 different sectors out there, supply chains. So what each of these sectors reports are doing is it's a high-level overview for manufacturers, companies, individuals to get an understanding of this specific segment. Is this an opportunity for our business? Should we further pursue and learn more about it? And you can see on the screen here we do have kind of the listing of the different segments that we're focused on. And each of these reports is very similar in nature, where we talk about the market size, the opportunities, the drivers, and then one of the key components is we're drilling down to the NAICS codes and also the component level, what is needed in each of these sectors. The goal is to help manufacturers identify do they fit into this sector or not, and then we can help further explore those opportunities. This is an example. If you go to the website, each of the sectors you can click on, and then you can go to, for the nuclear, for example, a lot more information there where you see the opportunity to download the report if it's been published, as well as once these webinars are complete, we produce those and post those online. A 25 or 30-minute webinar. You can watch that at your leisure, and also the presentation, the PowerPoint, if it's been provided by the author. We also post that online as well. And then these landing pages will also be a place to keep in mind as new information comes out. This is not just a static page. We're going to put more information, whether it be events coming up, updated reports, opportunities from maybe partner organizations as well. So it's a big good thing to bookmark and take a look at it there. So for today's webinar, and relatively short time, we're going to cover this in 30 minutes. My focus is going to talk about the upstream, or the drilling sector of the natural gas industry. And just a quick background on myself. I work for myself at Henderson Consulting, and I'm an economic development consultant. I've had the opportunity to work in shale energy for almost 20 years, from 2007, 2008, when this first started. Before it was a household name. Here in central Pennsylvania, saw the opportunity, and we've had some success in there, working with companies, understanding, making those connections between industry and the natural gas sector. And a lot of that comes to education, such as today. And I see several partners on here. I know Seneca Resources, I see as well, has done numerous tours with us where we take out companies, manufacturers. They get to talk firsthand with the field people, the companies that are doing this, identify opportunities for their individual company, and then further explore, is this industry for them? Should they engage, and where those opportunities will be. So as we walk through the upstream sector, again, encourage you to submit questions. There's my agenda. I'm going to just a high-level overview of the industry. I want to talk about what's going on today, where these opportunities I see for manufacturers, and as well as the goal is, how do you continue to stay updated on the industry? Take a look at these different resources, and I call these are my what to watch for. What are some of the key factors that can help shape the opportunities in the upstream sector moving forward the next several years. So to set a baseline, when we look at natural gas production in the United States, we're consuming approximately 90 BCF a day. And these numbers, no test later or promise, but keep these numbers in mind when we talk through some of the, I call these emerging opportunities. So you see, we consume about 90 BCF a day. Biggest sector is, of course, is power, and then industrial, manufacturing, residential, commercial. From a production standpoint, you see it would now produce for 2025 an average about 117 BCF a day. So we're obviously producing a lot more. It goes into storage, it gets exported, and you can see here exporting. And there's a tremendous amount of discussion around LNG exports. So taking the natural gas, cooling it down into liquid, shipping it on carriers around the world. The other thing to keep in mind is we do export a fair amount of gas via pipeline. You can see about 9.5 BCF a day. That's increased, I'd say, significantly in the last 10 or 12 years. It's slowed down in recent years, but we still do export a fair amount via pipeline to Canada and to Mexico. So where we're at here in the Appalachian region, we are the big producer of natural gas. You can see about 36 BCF a day. And when we look at the states, when we look at the states in the project, you can see Pennsylvania is producing, about 22 to 24 BCF a day. And you can see the other states out there. Of course, Maryland and New York have minimal gas production. Both have various moratoriums in place around hydraulic fracturing, whether related to get to water or other resources. So when we look at the formations, those numbers there are, and again, New York specifically, when we see some of the production numbers, when we look at it per well or per county well, the northern tier, look at Susquehanna County, the top producing county in Pennsylvania. The shale doesn't stop at the border. There's tremendous opportunity, or could have been tremendous opportunity in the southern tier of New York. The one thing I want you to look at in this map, and this is an overlay of the Marcellus and Utica. We're not going to go into a geology lesson real quick, but this covers 95,000 square miles, across the region. And we have investor reports or media talk about, say, tier 1, tier 2. So the tier 1 would be, say, the best of the rock. What's the best rock out there? One thing we learned early on is, that the tier 1 or the area that's going to be developed will ebb and flow on based on market conditions, based on pricing, and based on technology, which I'll touch on later. So, the entire shale formation will most likely never be developed. Where I sit in central Pennsylvania, we're in a unique area where we have, shale could be 9,000 feet in part of the county, and then it comes to the surface in other parts of the county. So some of it will never be developed. But what we are seeing is areas that even 5 years ago would not be developed, were not receiving a lot of attention, are now receiving attention and producing pretty good numbers, quantities in terms of natural gas because of the better technology. So using this slide from, say, our friends from the Marcellus Shale Coalition on here. So taking a look at unconventional shale production across Pennsylvania, you can see the trend. Obviously two trends here, tremendous increase from 2011 up until 2021. Natural gas was being produced, shipped out of the region, used within Pennsylvania borders, whether it be for power generation, commercial use, you name it. It's been relatively flat the last 3 or 4 years. And when we look at the West Virginia production, it's been the same. If we look at 2022, approximately 3 TCF, this is trillion cubic feet of gas. So Pennsylvania, you can see, is about 7.39 last year. West Virginia was just over 3, and they've been relatively flat in West Virginia gas production, and the same for Ohio. Ohio's actually seen a slight decrease in gas production specifically over the last several years. A lot of that has to do with getting the gas out of the region to other places, building pipelines. There's been a lot in the news about, some pipelines to move the gas out of Pennsylvania, out of the basin, to areas that need it. New England is a key area that comes up all the time, but getting the gas from Pennsylvania, or just to say through New York, around New York, has been extremely difficult due to a number of reasons out there. So the production hasn't leveled off due to, because the rock or the opportunities out there. It's just really no place to take this gas right now. Otherwise, if the companies continue to drill, produce more gas, it would be uneconomical, and would see a tremendous downturn in the industry. I can't talk shale development, I think, without discussing, the Trump administration and the impact that President Trump has had in his second term. I'm not going to go over each of these executive orders, and there's probably more I've missed. But you can see numerous executive orders on day one of his second term here for energy development. And while the focus has been, and there's a lot of discussion around the natural gas opportunities, it's also, you see some geothermal, you see nuclear, and you see some, coal as well as it relates to data centers, and reusing some old coal sites, for data centers, or, mixed use, natural gas or coal at those sites. So again, the tremendous amount of interest has been around natural gas, but some of the other forms of energy have also been, have received some attention out there. A few things I'd say the key one is, declaring a national energy emergency opens up the administration and some of the agencies to permit, to move some of these projects through a little bit faster. It doesn't, I'd say, reduce the scrutiny of the projects. It just puts a clock on these projects and helps move them at a quicker pace. So the industry and those areas that need the natural gas or energy have an opportunity to have a better timeline of when this gas will come through. The other area I want to just touch on in terms of impact from the administration we've seen in the news lately is the tariffs. Tariffs and trade agreements, that has been top of the news cycle. And when you see a lot of these trade agreements coming through from, countries, you see the European Union, Japan, Philippines, the list goes on. And this is just, a handful of the big agreements. A lot of those agreements are for these countries to purchase or utilize more energy from the United States. You can see over, what's reported, roughly $1.4 trillion in energy deals. And a lot of this is due to need. You see where the European Union has a need for LNG or natural gas. And some of these other countries out there, this is kind of a mutually beneficial agreement. I'd say that, we now have a place to ship or to take more of our energy, reduction in tariffs. And some of these are, you see the European Union, $250 billion a year. Some of that stuff might be tough to hit in that time period, but it opens the opportunities, it signals to the markets that says, hey, we're going to, there's a need, for this energy to continue to develop it, continue to put the investment in and move it out there. Time will tell how much of this comes to fruition. I'm going to talk a little bit about LNG exports here in a minute. Again, just a big focus on energy as it relates to the administration. So these are some of the emerging opportunities I'm going to walk through. I'm not going to go in depth on all of these, but when we look at where a company can engage and what markets or what subsectors of the drilling industry that they need to look at, these are going to be the signals, in my opinion, that says, hey, there's going to be more development. This is when it may occur, and this is where your opportunities are going to go. This is related to the Appalachian Basin, and I'll tie in some of these LNG exports, for example. For example, let's talk. So LNG exports, we understand and we see when a lot of this development is going to take place, it's going to be in the Gulf Coast. So, these are 7, 8 projects that have been announced. There's numerous, and they're in various stages, whether they've received their final investment decision. Some of these are, again, phase 1, phase 2, or additional phases where they already have existing facilities. Some are brand new facilities that have been on the books, honestly, for years. But when you look at the development out here, and let's just assume, looking at just these projects, if all these projects come into, do get the final investment, they get built, they get commissioned, and they start exporting, you're looking at an incremental increase of about 20 BCF of natural gas per day of production needed just to support these facilities. And going back to the original slide, I mentioned we're producing around 117 a day. So the one thing to keep in mind, 2 things that relates to the basin is the pipelines will pull gas, from the closest points is going to be the cheapest gas, but from the Appalachian Basin, there'll be backfill. Just like we saw in the first couple waves of gas production and the peaks and the increased production in Appalachia, some pipelines were turned around where we are not importing gas into the basin, but now we're exporting gas. Those same opportunities will open up as more of the existing gas production is shifted from other uses within the Gulf Coast to exports. Production will increase in the Gulf Coast, and then additionally, production can increase here in Appalachia as well. So again, this is looking at if 100% of these get funded, and these are a long-term projects. We're talking in terms of years, 5, 10 years for some of these to come into production. So it's not going to be. All of these are going to be, in production next year. We need to see a tremendous increase in gas production, or we're going to start seeing a shift in utilization of natural gas. These are very long-term processes. A lot of information through EIA or FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, who oversees and approves all these projects. So the timelines, the opportunities, who's building these, when the meetings will take place. There's a tremendous amount of information. And, referencing back to our report, we have a lot of those links in the report where people can go sign up for updates and newsletters and, get information when they're going to be built. So one project we've heard about in Pennsylvania here for numerous years, and I think it's got some additional life here, is, the Eddystone LNG facility here in southeast Pennsylvania. This project, and I borrowed or used this slide. It was at Shale Insight at the conference here a few weeks ago in Erie, where they spoke on about this project, a specific project in Philadelphia. I was going to say that the key with this project is getting the gas from the market here, from central Pennsylvania, northeast Pennsylvania, to the export facility is already there. There will be a little bit of pipelines, some constructions and bigger pipelines, I said, that would need to be replaced. But it's not like we're building a new pipeline from, central Pennsylvania down to the industrial hub. And this will be utilizing an existing brownfield, existing facilities out there. And it's just a matter of getting this project through the regulatory process from the state, local, county, and the federal level out there. So this project, like I said, it is going to use, it shows about 7.5 million tons per annum, several BCF, or up to several BCF per day. And, there's, when you look at the investment, this is obviously closer to home when we're looking at the project, our project location. And, there's interest in this from both ends, I would say, from the gas producers, from the LNG facility, from the region. It's just a matter of, again, getting this through the regulatory process out there. The other area I want to talk about is AI data centers. You can't go a day without hearing information about data centers. I think they use the term 90 or the figure 90. I'm going to say there's about $100 billion in the announced project. It's just a tremendous amount of interest in this region for building data centers. The demand continues to increase, and these are going to be supported by a number of energy sources out there. And I'm just looking at, since we're talking natural gas, if all of these projects were to come to fruition, you hear roughly 30 gigawatts of energy is needed to support these data centers. And again, looking at doing some of the math and conversion, roughly 4.5 BCF of gas a day would be needed. So again, is that pulled from the grid? Is that new project development, or is it a combination of both? You see, there's some tremendous sites. The Homer City, 4.5 gigawatt data center, and this is a lot of these larger projects are going to build incrementally. So you're not going to see 4.5 gigawatts of a natural gas build all at once. But it's again over the several years as these data centers are built, the gas turbine facilities, power generation facilities will be built there as well. Say a project plug on those original links I put out there. We do have 2 reports out on AI data centers, and we have 2 more coming here in the near future. So again, tremendous opportunity as it relates to just the data center build out, but also the support behind that, getting the gas to these data centers to build them out, to support them, so that from Pennsylvania standpoint, or the region standpoint, we can benefit on this opportunity. Power generation is another area, and just for context, for the PJM grid, where that regulates or moves the electrons, or is responsible for making sure when we turn the light switch on, we plug our laptop in, that we have power. PJM covers 13 states in DC, and they manage approximately 200 gigawatts of power across the grid. When you look out 5 to 10 years, or 5 to 7 years, or say, they're looking at approximately 40 gigawatts of retirement. And this is just retirement, and not looking at just the growth behind it. Take out the data centers. This is retirements. If data centers are not even in our vernacular, you're looking at approximately 40 gigawatts of replacement energy that's needed, and we're going to continue to see the growth out there. As it relates to natural gas, the one thing we're seeing, and we've heard a lot about, the gas turbines are sold out, or back. The companies can't produce them enough out to several years, and with that, escalating costs. When we look at a 1 gigawatt natural gas facility, you can see the figure there, roughly $2 billion. Averages, I know what I've always used, and kind of used over the years for industry, was roughly 1 to 1.1 billion per gigawatt. So those costs are escalating, and what that does for the natural gas sector is, that increased cost then makes companies potentially look at other sectors for power generation, whether it be nuclear, so renewables, geothermal, or a variety of other sources out there. Again, just for consistency, I'm showing if that sector, the power gen use, is completely built with natural gas, we're looking at approximately a 6 BCF of increased demand over the next 5 to 10 years. So a couple other areas. Emissions reduction was a key focus in the last say 4 to 5 years. Emission reduction capture. There's numerous regulations that were being pursued or being implemented that. From the federal level, that was putting, say, tax on carbon emissions, was really forcing or pushing the industry to continue to do things better, cleaner, and from the new administration, we've seen relax on some of these regulations, put a pause or pulling some of these back. But from the industry standpoint, what I have seen, and I'll say from a couple of weeks ago, attending, the Shale Gas Insight, or the Shale Insight Conference in Erie. Again, that's the big conference, I'll say, across Appalachia. There was a tremendous amount of discussion, breakout sessions. When you look at the exhibitors, and we look at what the companies, the producers are talking about, they're not slowing down on emission reduction. They're continuing. They've invested in this. They're going to continue to move forward, whether regulation pushes them, which they've always done, because of a few things. One is, again, it's the right thing to do, and they've always been looking at how do we do things better, how do we capture more of the molecules. When you look at the export market as well, Europe has several has criteria for what the LNG, what the emissions factor can be. And so as well as some other countries out there. So from a business standpoint, it makes sense to export it. And so again, I continue to see this as a huge opportunity, whether it comes into measurement and monitoring, emission reduction capture. That's an emerging area that's, I think, going to continue to grow over the next years. And it's a tremendous, to say, new opportunity or new technologies as they come out. Companies, again, manufacturers at the local level, coming up with these ideas. And the companies are then taking those and implementing them. When we look at the emissions factor from the Appalachian Basin, when we look at how much take the emissions over the natural gas that is produced, this is the lowest emission basin in the country, and the operators are taking these technologies, applying them across the country. And again, as I mentioned, still looking for ways at what is the next highest emission area, how can we tackle that, how can we reduce those emissions. Another area across the basin, rare earth minerals. There's a lot of discussion around lithium extraction. When we talk about data centers, data centers are looking at battery storage or battery backup. So when it's not just battery storage, a lot of times we want to go to electric vehicles. It's not just the vehicles. Like, battery storage is a key component. The future energy grid out there, and lithium extraction. There's a tremendous amount of discussion, interest across the region. There was discussion. I attended several sessions, and you see webinars on this. The technology is there. We need to. Some companies want to say scale it up, perfect it at a higher level. But to me, what I see again in Pennsylvania, specifically, where there's a tremendous amount of opportunity. There's concern, how is this going to be handled? Can we just, the water use in Pennsylvania has always been has been an area of interest. And, operators can't just turn the water over to these third parties without, some liability. So this is an area that may take a legislative or regulatory fix and may play out in the court systems over the next couple of years. But I think as that there is clarity in that, these companies have the technology, have the interest, where they're going to be able to deploy that technology, and then we'll see some of those downstream opportunities as it relates to battery energy storage within the region out there. The last thing, I'm going to steal this phrase from one of my colleagues in the industry. He says, they are a technology company that drills wells. And if you have the opportunity to go on the drill sites, that's what it is. When you go into, whether it be the drilling rig, you see some of the technology deployed across from the drilling, the completion to the operation side. This is a technology-driven industry, and it will continue to be to lower the cost of drilling, to lower cost of bringing the gas to the market. And, so companies out there that have, software technology-driven solutions, there's still tremendous opportunity for them to identify an area and get engaged in the industry out there. The last few slides I just want to talk about, and again, I will share these, and these slides are in our report that is out there. But the trade groups out there are a tremendous resource. We have the Marcellus Shale Coalition in Tioga in Pennsylvania, and then you see UGA, West Virginia, and then API, the National Trade Group. Great information, industry related for events, learning opportunities, fact sheets, what have you. And then the other side, from just online resources, we have the Penn State Energy team, the Penn State Extension Energy team, who has extensive background and knowledge. We're some of the first movers in terms of understanding, leasing down to production. So they have on their website tremendous resources and people behind them to help you navigate and understand where some opportunities might be, what's the industry doing, where is it going, and so forth. Two other areas, Marcellus Drilling News. This is to me, I think it's $80 a year to sign up for this. Jim Willis, he puts out newsletter every day. I don't know if the guy sleeps. He's got about 10 of the top stories of what's going on in the industry out there. And and he includes his commentary, but he includes the articles as well. So you can log in, get the information, find out what's going on in the industry. It comes out at noon every day. I know a lot of colleagues would just look for it, get the headlines, and you can get a quick snapshot of what's going on. The other area, company investor reports. dig through those. They're talking about what's going on in the industry, what they're doing, what the focus is, and you can glean a lot of information out there. So last slide I just want to walk through before any questions is, and this comes to, if all of these things come into fruition, I say if and capital is bold and, 12-point font, we're looking at an incremental increase of roughly 30 BCF of gas a day, just assuming 100% of the data centers, the grid, of course, LNG would be powered by natural gas. I'll talk about that in a second from a manufacturing standpoint. The other thing to keep in mind, again, all shale is not created equal. And as the companies are, picking out or developing in their key areas, you're starting to see, in Ohio, you're starting to see some oil production, and when you look at the numbers, you're going to say, well, let's compare this to, Texas or other areas in oil production. The numbers may currently say pale in comparison, but when you look at the curve and the trajectory of how much oil they're getting out of these wells, it's pretty impressive, and it's something to take a look at because, again, it's impressive. The oil and the liquids are a value add, and we talk about the ethane, the propane, all the other anes out there. The other area I mentioned that if you look up, there's some Utica wells that have their initial production and then 12 months out has seen minimal, if any, decline curve. And when you look at a shale well, typically, again, I'm averaging, you're going to see over the first 6 months a 50% drop in production, maybe a little bit less, but say 40 to 50% drop in production. But some of these wells out there are now having a very minimal decrease over time. These wells have been online maybe 18 months, at some of these 12, 18 months. So they're still early. But when you look at where the investment is going to take place, you're going to start seeing companies go to some of these areas where they're getting the better return, longer return, quicker ROI. Other areas to watch, I'm not going to go over a lot of detail, but watch FERC. FERC regulates a lot of, these LNG, and they're going to look at, again, power grid reliability. Regulation reform is something that's been on the agenda for all kinds of industries for decades. If we get some regulation reform for pipelines and to build more out in the region, I think that'll open up additional markets. In terms of PJM, who manages electricity across the region, you hear them signaling to the data centers, bring your own generation. So there's concern, of course, if all the power gen goes to data centers, what's going to happen to the grid? So continue to watch what PJM is going to do. I talked about the trade deals. There's still ongoing ones. And then specific to Pennsylvania, they didn't touch on, but when you look at power generation, specifically natural gas power generation, Pennsylvania, we've seen minimal or no investment over the last several years because the regional greenhouse gas initiative that's been in the courts for years. So that Supreme Court decision will hopefully come down here in the fall, and that could signal to more opportunities out there. So just looking at from a manufacturing standpoint, what happens if all of these projects are natural gas? You saw approximately 30 BCF a day. We're producing 120. If all of that were to be all of a sudden 117 we take 30 of that way, we would see an increase in energy costs. And I'll use the lawyer comments of, past performance is not an indicator of the future. But when we saw the price of, we saw LNG exports increase to where the United States is the top exporter in the world, we did not see a tremendous or an increase in the cost of energy, again, specific to manufacturing. We've been a net exporter since 2022. Again, in short time, the U.S. has been the top exporter around the world. So, again, this is in years, and when you look at all the drilling locations and the opportunities out there, in my opinion, you see the industry can ramp up at a scale pace that would not have a detrimental impact on the manufacturing community out there. And actually, when we look at the price of gas, over the looking at inflation, it's been the price of natural gas to electricity has been relatively flat, over the past 10 years. So I would expect to continue to see that in the future. So. With that, again, I open up to any questions. I did see a couple come in. I believe, let me see if there's any I didn't cover, but most of those I've covered. So with that, I would thank you, and not seeing any more questions, I would say encourage you to either reach out to me. My email's on here. You can reply back to the your registration for the webinar. We'd be glad to talk more about this. I know we did a very high level, very quick, but I'd be glad to talk with companies, organizations to help you understand, where your business might fit in, and if there's opportunities for you, and hopefully benefit going forward. So again, thank you, everybody, and I wish everybody had a great day.